This is an introduction to Sisters in Climate through story, from our humble beginnings to our inspiring journey of growth. My name is Natalie Sifuma, and I'm joined by Zinzi Mutiso and Michelle Wanjiru. 2 years ago, in January of 2023, I was embarking on a journey that blended social change and climate justice. I had previously been building my storytelling skills, and development communications was becoming more familiar in my professional growth. In considering the kinds of spaces where social change and climate justice intersect, I was encouraged by a former colleague to consider hosting an event for International Women's Day. The idea seemed doable, and I'd had at least 5 events under my belt. But I wanted to first understand and be curious to further explore how honoring women could also be an opportunity to honor the environment. After a few days of thinking through a blueprint for an event, I reached out to Michelle, whose work I'd been following on LinkedIn. I shared an overview of the idea and asked for her design and ESG wisdom. At the same time, on one of our long phone conversations, I shared the idea with my friend Zinzi, who was gradually pivoting from commercial law and wanted to get her knees deep in environmental justice and climate action. In many ways, I'm glad that the idea was shared with two incredible African women. We got to unpack what climate means and how to better talk about climate. And through this discovery, we were able to create a space for dialogue, learning, sisterhood, and community building. Zinzi, in thinking back to that evening after the event concluded, what was the feeling like for you in that moment?
I mean, I remember thinking, wow, we did that. And and for me, the event was happening at a time when I really wanted to better understand green jobs, climate awareness. So taking the time to curate a program that centered these elements with consideration for the attendees who had some insights, as well as those who were really just coming to learn and vibe with other women, was a step in the right direction for what I was pursuing. I'm keen to hear from you, Michelle, too. What was it like for you as we prepared for the event, and then what came after it?
I'd say that it definitely gave me a chance to explore what sisterhood could look like and made me somewhat obsessed with the idea that I could support the process of community building that prioritized sisterhood and sustainability. And what a long way we've come since then. I'm constantly in awe of Sisters in Climate and how it's organically grown from what started as an idea and eventually evolved into a community.
I like that you mentioned those crucial elements, that is, sisterhood and sustainability. After the event, I was fortunate to attend and engage in a number of climate forums, and I was quietly seeking those elements. That year, I went to Kigali for the Women Deliver conference, and oh my goodness, it was by far one of the most incredible experiences because of its diligent and gentle focus on women. What I mean is that not just the programming focused on women's development, but even in the way the conference center was set up, there were nursing rooms for mothers who'd come with their children. There were quiet rooms for those who needed a moment of respite amidst the busyness of the conference. And there was just this aura of sisterhood, just from the atmosphere that Women Deliver created. But one pivotal moment in my conference attendance history was in June of 2024 when I attended the Aspen Ideas Festival as a visiting fellow. I shared about Sisters in Climate with Uva, who's a lovely lady from Panama. At the time, Sisters in Climate had become a WhatsApp community. We had a logo in check and social media pages that were slowly but naturally growing. As I was sharing my professional development with Uva, along with some frustrations regarding my workplace at the time, I mentioned that, in this perfect world, I'd spend more time building Sisters in Climate. Her response was just simply, so why don't you?
That is definitely the kind of question that will trigger Natalie into doing something. But I mean, look at what's come from it. I mean, and then after June, we started breathing more life into Sisters in Climate and using the initial idea and lessons to build strategic partnerships and educate on climate. This textiles awareness project we carried out with Threading Change, Janet Chemtai, and Dandora Waste Pickers was really one for the books. It was unconventional yet informative. It was a moment to use real stories on the ground to inspire social awareness and change on just really how we dispose of our clothes and generally the fashion choices we make.
And on that note, as the team organizing it, we learned just how much work needs to be done to educate on sustainability, not just in fashion, but also in food and agriculture. And I think we've been able to build on that project this year by starting 2025 with a community meetup that we chose to talk about sustainability and social impact while creating a space for learning and collaboration was something I'm most proud of in this journey of ours.
Speaking of journeys, it's been great to work with you both on building this community, honestly. In many ways, we complement each other's strengths. Zinzi is quite meticulous with planning, and Michelle, you encourage big thinking and different ways to navigate things. And then we also have Juliet, who's so diligent in research and admin support that she offers us. There's Sia, who has a unique energy for women and wellness. And Marita, who knows the nooks and crannies of strategic communications. It definitely feels like a dream team.
It certainly is a dream team, which is why having a strategy day in January was important. I like that we were able to come away with a clear understanding of the vision of Sisters in Climate, who we exist for, and our ultimate purpose. And helped us build on our existing portfolio by offering consultations on climate, organizing events, centering storytelling, and designing workshops that will upskill more Africans on climate and sustainability.
And Michelle, I just want to add to that because we were able to spend time planning the year. It's really helped zone in on the kind of partnerships we're looking for, understanding that much of our work is advancing knowledge and collaborations in a Pan-African way. We are now having conversations with people and organizations in our network to move closer to that vision while ensuring we bring as many women in and from Africa along with us.
You're right to mention inclusion of women. And even now, as we're gearing up for International Women's Day, it's exciting to connect with different women across the continent whose work in climate and sustainability is pushing Africa forward. I was just looking over the stories we'll be spotlighting this month, and it's exciting to learn what many are doing, from a Comorian lady who's using artistic productions to tell African stories on sustainable construction, to the Zambian women who have been working on forest restoration projects for over 2 decades. There's also a young activist blending photography and digital advocacy to champion the inclusion of women's perspective in disaster risk reduction. But Natalie, now that it's 2 years into Sisters in Climate, why is this International Women's Day especially important?
Wow. I mean, I would say that we're the place where we have the proof that the spaces which we're creating and enabling have the power to transform society for the better. They are spaces where we are strategically and inadvertently bridging the communications divide between climate policies as well as the palatability of language and context. And this celebration of women is also an opportunity for us to keep educating because there is boundless room to do work that strengthens people while caring for the environment. So, all in all, very excited for this moment. What about you, Zinzi?
I really do share the same sentiments. And I love the selection process of the women we'll be spotlighting. We've ensured geographical representation, sector diversity, and this, to your point, on the boundless room to work in climate, we get to see that climate and sustainability jobs are diverse and can be incorporated into the work we're already doing. This is also a moment that sets the tone for the road ahead. We're in conversations with a few great partners to plan more and engaging educational activities this year, most notably an African youth session at Change Now Summit in Paris and a climate cafe with the African Climate Alliance. Our direction with partnerships has been grounded on a shared belief of Pan-Africanism, climate justice, women's active participation, and equitable development. So even as we cast a net to engage with partners across funding, resource and activities, these are elements that give us a lifeline.
It's really been great to see you grow in your role. And thinking back to where it all started, how has Sisters in Climate complemented or supported the other incredible things you're working on?
I really appreciate that question, Michelle, because I would say Sisters in Climate and I are a right time, right place kind of story. In navigating transition, I found a community of women willing to walk the journey with me and stand in my corner. It's been beautiful not only to experience this myself, but to also witness it for the women in our network. The journey has also been really mind expanding. It's clear that we deeply love our continent and see the immense potential within it. And as we reimagine and co create our futures, we recognize that Africa isn't a monolith. There's no single answer to what Africa should look like, and honoring this diversity is essential. So, really, I'm alive to the endless possibilities, and with that, the potential for Sisters in Climate. What about you, Michelle, and then Natalie?
Thank you, Zinzi. Personally, I would say it's been healing my idea of what it means to be in transformational relationships with women. In society, there's a great wounding of what it entails to be your sister's keeper, with a lot of competition and negativity that's often associated with female communities. Sisters in Climate is allowing each one of us to control and rewrite the narrative of what true sisterhood is about, supporting and sharing while also still being accountable and present. There's an abundance in sisterhood, and that simply means that there's enough space for each of our lights to shine. As I reflect on Sisters in Climate's impact on my professional journey, I know that this has given me a platform to develop thought leadership. This space is about true mastery of my craft while allowing me to step into my purpose with greater confidence. It is a masterclass in leadership training through elevating and educating other women on their collective power in shaping Africa's sustainable future by creating innovative solutions for us and by us. Natalie?
Yeah, so Sisters in Climate has enabled me to continue wearing my Africanness with so much pride. To be a product of Africa is to realize how much greatness is within us and use that greatness for good. I'm reminded of something Mia Mottley said at the recent AU elections. She said, recognize that the future of the world is not possible without the stability of Africa and its diaspora. So, in some small but commendable ways, Sisters in Climate is enabling the stability of Africa. And this also complements a recent milestone in my professional development. I was recently accepted into the Elevate Africa Fellowship, which is an exciting year-long opportunity to enhance my leadership skills and strengthen my approach to transforming the narratives of Africa on global platforms. So I'm really keen to see how this experience will guide how I approach the steady development of Sisters in Climate and our mission, which is to encourage and facilitate different convergence points for African women to be more involved in advancing climate adaptation and sustainable futures.
Thank you both so much for sharing so openly and honestly. And I'm so excited for the great things ahead of us, for all of us, really.
Yes, me too.
Me three. Thank you so much as well for, for sharing that.